You are watching Canadian Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. From Toronto, Ontario, I'm Catherine Bullock. Assalamu alaikum and greetings of peace. Up next, a conversation about a multicultural women's shelter in Calgary called Maskan. We'll talk to ANEELA AZEEM and ZAINAB Khan. But first, some news headlines. Provincial ministers call for autonomy to recruit skilled workers. Alberta's mental health program to support Black Muslim women. 2 vulnerable people targeted in Vancouver. African Islamic Banking and Takaful Summit inaugurated in Tanzania. And now the details. Immigration ministers from Ontario, Alberta and Saskatchewan have sent a letter to Sean Fraser, the Federal Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship, on Tuesday, demanding more control over the selection of immigrants to curb the labour shortage. According to the letter, the ministers want to choose immigrants themselves to be able to respond quickly to changing economic and humanitarian needs. Monty McNaughton, Ontario's Minister of Labour, Immigration, Training and Skills Development, says there is, quote, a looming crisis, as 2/3 of workers in the trades are over the age of 55. As told to a local media source, he says such a labour shortage contributes to our high cost of living. Ubuntu, mobilising Central Alberta, has designed a mental health support project in partnership with the advocacy group Black Women United YEG for Black Muslim women in the province. The project, named the Resilience and Intersectionality in Ethos, has received a grant of $75,000 from the Alberta government. The program's cultural coordinator says that Black Muslim women have been hesitant to report incidents of gender and race-based attacks. Impacted women are invited to share their experiences this Friday evening at Red Deer Cultural Society as part of the project. A man set a vulnerable woman on fire by pouring flammable liquid on her on Monday in the downtown East Side neighbourhood in Vancouver. The woman, who is described as in her 50s, sustained serious burns as she ran to a nearby business for help. The attacker fled the scene. A similar attack occurred around the same time when a homeless man's sleeping structure was set on fire. The man, who was sleeping in the city's alley, was able to put out the fire. The police tell local media they are not sure if both cases of arson are linked. The inaugural ceremony of the African Islamic Banking and Takaful Summit was held Tuesday in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Africa is an emerging market for Islamic finance and is quickly becoming a hub for Islamic financial institutions. The region is ripe for a new avenue for foreign direct investment. Mohammed Zubair Mughal, Chief Executive Officer of Al Huda Center Islamic Banking and Economics, inaugurated the ceremony. Mughal says Islamic banking and finance are the ultimate financial solution due to their viability and sustainability. He said several new Islamic financial institutions are ready to start operations in the market. A few of the participating banks have also come into the markets with stand-alone branches for Islamic banking operations. And that's it for the news. Maskan is an Urdu word meaning small, peaceful place of dwelling. It's also the name being given to a women's shelter by a Calgary-based Canadian Pakistani Support Group Association. To tell us more about it, we are joined by Executive Director ANEELA AZEEM and ZAINAB Khan, Project Manager. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the show.
Walaikum assalam, Sister Katia. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Let me start with you, Sister ANEELA. Why did you feel the need to start this women's shelter?
Actually, CPSG, which is Canadian Pakistani Support Group, it started from a very small group of volunteers who were very passionate to help the people in their community. So we started our work by supporting those families with basic survival needs. Later, we transformed this into an organization in 2017, and we are a CRA charitable organization since 2019. While working, we identified a very pressing issue of family conflicts which lead to incidents of domestic violence, and immigrant women being unfamiliar with the community support and resources,
Mm,
they would compromise with the verbal, physical, and emotional abuse
mhm.
unless life-threatening situation would arise. So I wanted to create a facility which could provide support to women and children who are fleeing from domestic violence.
So,
That is how.
Sister Zainab, how did you get involved with this project?
So my role as a project manager started back in 2020 September, and when I joined the organization, they were already established, and we were kind of introducing more programs and everything. So my role is around projects implementation and partnership relationship. And coming here, I'm also a newcomer. It's only been 3 years since I came to Canada. I learned a lot about the domestic violence and family violence issues because it was surprising for me coming from my home country that in Canada there are so many incidents behind closed doors that we are unaware of.
I'll ask you more about the services in a moment, but let me just go back to Sister ANEELA. I have heard other women activists who have been trying to address domestic violence in the Muslim community for decades. In the beginning, they weren't taken seriously and accused almost of undermining the Muslim family. What kind of feedback did you get as you started to think about bringing this to fruition?
Um, Actually, we the need for Maskan in Alberta was very important because the waiting time is very long.
Mm,
There are different kind of shelters in Alberta, but to find a space in any shelter which provide culturally relevant services is very rare.
mm.
So we that's how we started, and we felt like there are so many calls coming in to get help for stay, and when we were trying to approach different shelters, we were told that there is no place, and even there is, their needs were not fully satisfied.
So then let's talk a little bit to Sister Zainab then about how Maskan is satisfying those needs in a culturally relevant way.
So, Muskan, as the name means, that it is a home, a safe space, and that is what we make sure is the unique value of Muskan. Whoever walks through the doors of Muskan, they feel like they are at home, a safe place. They are
Mm,
given culturally relevant food. So, for Muslims, halal food, but for other communities, culturally relevant food. Clothing. The caseworkers who support the women here can speak multiple languages, have multicultural competencies. We have mental health support in over 9 to 10 languages, and we provide them the culturally relevant mental health support. And we make sure that the additional programs and services that are provided are according to their religious, cultural, and spiritual needs.
So let's just stay with you for a moment, Sister Zainab, and talk a little bit about the structure. Is it a single house? How many rooms does it have? How many women are there at present?
So it's a transitional shelter home. So what does a transitional shelter home means? That it helps them through the transition period. We provide a stay of 5 to 6 weeks, but there are exceptions. It is a
Mm,
home-like facility, and at 100% capacity, according to the permit of the city, we can accommodate 10 individuals. That includes women and children.
mm. So 10 altogether, or 10 women and their kids as extras?
Altogether 10.
Altogether 10. And you mentioned, Sister ANEELA, that there was a lot of demand, and I'm assuming, unfortunately, that also means that there's a lot of demand for Mascan. How do people find out about it?
How people find out about us?
The shelter. If a woman is facing physical abuse by her husband, but she doesn't know what to do, how will she find out about Mascan?
We are a member of Alberta Council of Women Shelter. We are a member of Women Shelter Canada, which is federal organization, and we are registered with them. So usually, when women they call these organization to find a shelter, they are mostly the Muslim shelter women. They are referred to us. And other than that, we have developed a service directory
Mm,
which we distribute in all the mosques and different places, and we have listed our numbers there. We have a website. We are also giving information about our organization and our shelter through social media,
mm,
and all the local newspapers, they have covered our stories. So a lot of women, they already know about Maskan, and we, through your channel, I hope that a lot of more people, they will know about us.
So, Sister ZAINAB, let's talk money. Obviously, you don't have volunteer counsellors or volunteers. I'm assuming that you have paid staff. So, how do you raise the money to keep the structure going, provide the services and the goods as well that you mentioned, the food and clothing?
So I will start off from 2019. When we started our journey back in 2019, we reached out to the community and we raised some funds, and those were the funds just to open the doors of Muskans and launch the project. Later on, we reached out to different organizations, different funding bodies at the level of city, at the level of province, and also at the level of federal. So we received some fundings for the operational part, but those fundings are project limited and not multi-year funding. So sustainability is one of the challenge that we are addressing. But at the same time, we rely heavily on our community who have been very supportive. A recent incident that we encountered, that we had to find and secure a shelter building because we were living in a rental facility. And that means after a certain period of time, we had to move. And we reached out to the community. For 3 years, we raised enough funds to secure the shelter building. So our community is our strength. For food, we have partnerships with some of the grocery stores who actually have donation area in their stores, and people donate the groceries over there. So there are multiple streams of funding and support that we are getting, but still the sustainability multi-year funding is one of the challenges that we still hope to address.
And Sister ANEELA, some imams get a bad reputation for telling a woman, if she goes to the imam is often the first place the woman will go, and she'll say, my husband is doing this and this to me, and the imam will say, be patient, go back home. How are you getting the community on board to support this initiative as something that's appropriate and allowable Islamically?
Family is the essence of any society, and it's very heartbreaking when a family is broken. However, when this kind of stressful and abusive situation arise, we have sent a lot of ladies to local imams for reconciliation, and we find all these religious leaders very helpful. They understand the situation of domestic violence, how it's increasing. Even we have done a lot of fundraisers with the mosques, and there are many religious leaders on board with us, and they support our project, and they also help us to create awareness about domestic violence.
We've heard that during the COVID lockdown, the unseen pandemic was a rise in domestic violence. Sister ZAINAB, did you notice those numbers with the calls coming into Maskan?
Initially, what we saw there was an abrupt decline in the number of shelter requests because everything goes down, and that was one of the barriers in reporting domestic violence, and people were uncertain about things happening and the support available. But as soon as the vaccinations were starting, we saw a huge increase in the number of shelter requests. In fact, what we saw as a member of Alberta Council of Women's Shelter, we know that what situation is in other shelters, and we saw that after pandemic and during the vaccination phase, there was a huge increase in the number of shelter requests. We did partner with some of the organization in research around pandemic and domestic violence, and we saw that due to pandemic, because people were staying more home, the incidents of domestic violence were increasing actually.
Well, unfortunately, we're out of time, but we commend you and wish you well in your work. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for inviting us.
Thank you for watching Canadian Muslim News. If you like what we do, please share, like, and subscribe. Stay safe and God bless.